Welcome back everyone to GGN. This is part 2, the final part for today, for Wednesday, October 9th, 2013. I'm Darko, and this is my website, Global Government News. It's ggnonline.net, and on YouTube, ddarko2012 and ddarko2013 are my YouTube channels. If you subscribe to the 2012 account, you might want to go to the 2013 just in case. It's kind of a backup. They like to play that copyright infringement game to shut down people's accounts, but luckily I'm still kicking here. And if you could donate, I do accept donations, and they are very, very much appreciated. Basically, it just helps me kind of squeak by. So, members of Congress seen partying, drinking on Capitol Hill all week during shutdown. So this is where we left off, keeping themselves busy by partying and drinking, and generally having a great big knees up. So I don't know, it looks like Selma Hayek in there or something. But okay, I want to leave off with this before I continue with the other news about the shutdown. National mall suicide wasn't political, says family. The neighbors are baffled by the death. This was the guy that self-immolated, right? And I said, is this the first political self-immolation in the United States? Well, it says here that it was the result of mental illness, not his political beliefs, says his family. It says it was not a political act or statement. The family's lawyer says he is not aware of any anti-government statements made by him or any ill will he may have had against the government. But it says here that he was generally friendly and happy. He had complained about the government to neighbors though only in terms that many ordinary Americans would agree with him. So they're basically saying that if you have sentiments like this, that you're mentally ill, especially if you're going to take action and make it into a political statement. So he said that they were a waste of time, effort, and money. One neighbor tells the New York Daily Times or News, he said to me, they're no good. They don't look out for us, and they don't care about anything but their own pockets. Someone said it's a good way for the lefties, I think they said, the Obama regime, to scoff that this was actually politically motivated. But also, you're talking about mentally ill, right? If dissenters is just another push towards, if you're mentally ill, you can be euthanized, right? So if you're a political dissenter, you're mentally ill, therefore you need to be euthanized. I mean, this isn't anything new. I mean, most of you are aware of that this type of stuff that happened back in the 1900s, in the 20th century, early 20th century, mid 20th century, under Bolshevism, communism, and other forms of basically political tyranny. A Russian activist sent to a mental institution. So they say it echoes the Soviet era. For the first time since the collapse of the Soviet Union, a Russian court on Tuesday ordered an opposition activist to be sent to a mental institution for compulsory treatment, so maybe some shock treatment. He was charged for taking part in a violent demonstration. He was ordered to undergo mental treatment at a prison-like mental institution for an undefined period. And then I saw this one, because that other one was a guy. That other case, ex-teacher sent for psychiatric treatment over a treaty with Satan. A Russian court on Wednesday sentenced compulsory psychiatric treatment of a former teacher who drafted a contract with the devil in her own blood, asking him to destroy a beloved pupil's relationship. The 41-year-old developed an infatuation with a man in his 20s while working at a computer literacy class several years ago. The woman tried to break up the relationship by signing a contract with the devil that stipulated exchanging the woman's soul for a younger body. But it's not just over there, right? A former Marine indefinitely detained in psychiatric ward over 9/11 Facebook post. So this was about dissent, right? Like the original Russian story. This former Marine was carted off by the feds and locked in a psychiatric ward for his Facebook post questioning the government's version of 9/11. He is held in the ward and called delusional. Then from Scientific American, implanted electrodes reboot brain out of intractable depression. Neurologists and surgeons have basically worked with brain stimulation. The more they are convinced that their occurrence from the technology's implanted electrodes can literally reboot brain circuits involved with mood disorder. So also, when you're living in horrible conditions, this is what Aldous Huxley was talking about, making people, the masses, under this new form of scientific dictatorship, feel happy when they ought not to be. right? And this is what it's all about, whether it's pharmaceutical drugs, whether it's shock therapy. A woman legally euthanized in Belgium over depression after sex change. The 44-year-old Belgian woman struggling with gender confusion has been legally euthanized after her sex change procedure was botched, resulting in physical deformities she said made her look like a monster. So she had suffered severe emotional abuse from her parents from the day of her birth, resulting in severe gender confusion that led her to believe her only path to happiness was to become male instead of female. I was the girl that nobody wanted, she said. While my brothers were celebrated, I got a storage room above the garage as a bedroom. I was ready to celebrate my new birth, but when I looked into the mirror, I was disgusted with myself. This is something I talked about before. The new thing, organs donated from assisted suicide patients. Again, when you say assisted suicide, you can also say that they were forcibly euthanized. I know that last story wasn't the case, but that's just a horrible, sad story. In a way, you almost, if people wanted to kill themselves, I think that they should be. But I'm talking about, quote, assisted suicide, where you're being euthanized by the state for whatever, dissenting. With a shortage of organ donors in Europe, Belgian doctors have a novel solution. Patients with unbearable suffering donate their organs after voluntary euthanasia. So, I thought that was kind of interesting. From September 9th, 2013. There's Russian mood sensors poised to enter U.S. retail market. A Russian-developed tablet retail device that reads people's facial expressions and considers shoppers' moods before making purchasing recommendations is poised to enter the U.S. market. This is a good segue into getting into the government shutdown. Scientists create DNA tracking tags. They might soon be used to track protesters as well as animals. Well, to the elites, what's really the difference between protesters and animals? Currently, U.S. military tracks GMO campaigners and independent scientists. I mean, remember, Russia is actually calling for a total ban on GMO. The Taliban, they mocked the U.S. over government shutdown. It says here that the American people should realize that their politicians play with their destinies as well as the destinies of the other oppressed nations for the sake of their personal vested interests. The insurgents accuse selfish and empty-minded American leaders of taking U.S. citizens' money, earned with great difficulty, then lavishly spending the same money and shedding the blood of the innocent and oppressed people. Instead of sucking the blood of their own people, this money should be utilized for the sake of peace. Remember that whole truckers are going to storm Washington before this? Trucker protests canceled. Government shutdown threat intended to ruffle feathers. The trucker protest of the D.C. One is being canceled by Earl Conlon because the government shutdown threat apparently was never intended to be taken literally. But it says here, the official Truckers Ride for the Constitution organization claims Earl Conlon does not represent their organization, and his ideals for a trucker protest are completely separate from their own. So see, you get at the leadership, and these people are actually controlled opposition a lot of times, right? Steering it. The official Ride for the Constitution will proceed as planned and is not canceled. For the last 3 days, the plan is to line up semi-trucks 3 lanes and drive just at 55 miles per hour, the speed limit. I think they call it a convoy or something. It's illegal. Yeah, it's crazy because you think of Smokey and the Bandit in those movies. I mean, the cops were buffoons, right? The truck drivers were cool and stuff like that. And they kind of just like, I hate to use this word, neuter them, but in a way they kind of like put them in their place nowadays, right? With authorities and way stations and all that crap. I mean, they even got to go through Homeland DHS security checkpoints. Social Security warns benefits could get cut if the debt ceiling isn't increased. They said, unlike a federal shutdown, which has no impact on the payment of Social Security benefits, failure to raise the debt ceiling puts Social Security benefits at risk, according to a person familiar with the agency's directive. That's kind of reiterating what Obama was talking about. And like we said, DHS also has run exercises to deal with people who are going to be angry and storming the Social Security offices when the checks don't come. Retired, but like I said, Congress, who's drinking it up right now and partying all week, they will still get it under the Constitution. They'll still get paid. Retired police officer fatally shot by security after shots fired at federal courthouse in Wheeling. So pretty interesting what's going on here. The self-immolation, now this. Retired police officer armed with 2 weapons, I think they're AR-15s, fired up 24 shots at the U.S. courthouse in West Virginia before police returned fire and killed him. Of course, people are getting all crazy about this martial law thing. Democrat Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee suggests martial law to end government shutdown. It's like I said before, we're already in martial law. It's already kind of been declared, but it's also not so much the military as it is a militarized police. See, the term martial law in a legislative context is somewhat obscure, but it has been used before to define lawmakers' ability to fast-track bills without going through the usual congressional process. She said, "We have martial law, which means that, and my colleagues know what it means, is that you can put up a bill in just minutes." This is from the London Guardian, October 7th. America's police are looking more and more like the military. The Defense Department program transfers military-grade weapons and vehicles to local law enforcement. Said last week in a small county upstate New York with a population of just 120,000 people, they received one of these MRAP vehicles from the DOD. From October 9th, Cullman police received free armored vehicle for emergencies. This is Alabama. Then moving on to Ohio. Remember this story? Armored military transport to join Ohio State Police fleet. This is all recent news. Idaho police join growing numbers of departments with military vehicles October 3rd. So they're just issuing these things. This isn't just surplus. CPD awarded an armored vehicle. This is Coffeyville, I think. Yeah, Kansas. This is Kansas. They got their BAE MRAP armored vehicle October 3rd. Madison police add armored vehicle to the fleet. This is Wisconsin. City gets equipment free through government surplus program. And yeah, this article from September 30th, beware of police's increasing militarization. Dallas County got an MRAP tactical vehicle as well. Kind of crazy. Remember that biker beating? NYPD agent arrested for biker beating spied on Occupy activists. That whole thing about surrounding that Chinese guy, whatever, and I guess they beat the crap out of him or something. They basically, they caused it. The bikers caused it. It was like something out of a movie, right? It's like something that you would see out of a movie, and that's what it sounded like. I'm like, this doesn't sound right, right? He worked as an undercover officer and tried to infiltrate the Occupy movement, the same guy. So this guy probably infiltrated this biker unit, and then what? He was probably the one that was doing a brake check against the car, right? Because, these bikers, they think that they own the road. With their bikes, and they'll take up they don't just take up a lane. When they spread their bikes in one lane, they have they're almost like in the other lane. And I saw it. The guy just immediately stopped. They were taking up the whole road, and the guy hit him, and of course they got out and they started getting all violent and chasing him down. But remember this guy, for whatever it's worth, from October of last year, an NYPD officer plotted to kidnap, cook, and eat women. Authorities say. And this is that picture. I don't know. There's something about him. It seems creepy. Like everybody and everything else, right? People watching too much television. Like this. Remember we were talking about obsession. Russia. Russian woman kills boyfriend due to his jealousy over a pop star. A televised performance by the Russian pop superstar led to a murder in western Siberia where a woman fatally stabbed her live-in boyfriend who was jealous of her fondness for the singer. So this is kind of like that X-Files episode, where they're putting the filter tubes in there and people are just going crazy. NFL rules bans off-duty cops from bringing guns into the First Energy Stadium. So this is a trend now that I've seen. School tells cop not to wear his gun or uniform when picking up his daughter. Because of all the recent shootings, they have zero tolerance regarding weapons on campus, including many cases, basically off-duty cops. It's like I said, they want to turn the schools, the education camps, re-education camps, into prisons themselves in the complexes, where even authorities, the trusted authorities that enforce the tax system and the political system, the police can't even go in there and remove their children from state custody by force if need be. Skateboarders visit favorite Washington spots amid shutdown. So there's, and skateboarding was supposed to be a form of defiance, right? Especially anti-authority. And then somehow they've got all these cities and rural areas all across America and convince the rebellious teens to obey authority and corral themselves into these parks. Basically turn it into a fashion statement. The government shutdown is responsible for a salmonella outbreak because they care so much about your food. But they're keeping the military-industrial complex rolling the police state. Pharmaceutical firms paid to attend the meetings of the panel that advises FDA. And they allow Monsanto not to be liable for the harm that they do. They're the winner of the World Food Prize, Monsanto. They're going to blame the invasion of these stink bugs on the shutdown. But I blame globalization, weather modification, and this could be a little payback by the Chinese, right? Thank you.